Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tangle Time Arts. I'm Nana Heron. I'm a certified Centangle teacher. And today we are going to wrap up a fragment of your imagination project, which was a January project. But I got a little behind. And so here we are on our final demo of the series. And we're looking at tiles 5 through 8. And this was a project put out by Seven Forests, Five Rivers. So big shout out to them because I think our tiles have turned out amazing. And we're just going to finish up like we did for tiles 1 through 4 with the same materials. So I've got tiles 5, 6, 7, and 8, which for this set, I feel like the shading is pretty much where I want it to be. So there's not a lot of shading that we have to finish up. I did tape them together on the back with washi tape. And I also have other materials. I have off screen, I have a jar of clear water. I have a paper towel. I have a brush, a black pen, a number 2 pencil, a tortillon, and then I'm using watercolor pencils, the same ones we used for tiles 1 through 4 because we want the colors to match. And just like for tiles 1 through 4, I would recommend that you go ahead and once you've taped them together, you can make a photocopy of that and you can practice with any color scheme that you'd like before you actually put it on your final tiles. Um, so I would highly recommend that you make a bunch of copies and practice coloring them in that way. It's actually kind of fun to do. And then if we take a look at our tiles 1 through 4, we used a terracotta color, a purple, and a blue. And I'm going to use those same colors for today. And I'm going to keep the terracotta in the center, but instead of purple for the circle, I'm going to use the blue. And instead of blue for the lines, I'm going to use the purple. So I'm just going to switch things up a little bit. All right, let's get started. I feel like I do not want to add any more ink to this set. So I'm going to go straight for my number 2 pencil. And one thing that we did for tiles 1 through 4 was to add a little shading along the edges, like all 4 long edges there. So I'm going to go ahead and just add that now. And it doesn't have to be a lot. And some areas already have a little bit of shading, and that's fine. And then I'm just going to rotate a little and try to keep this on the screen for you because it's a lot larger than I normally work with. And you don't really have to add any shading over the black areas. You can kind of skip over that. And then we're back to where we started. And once I have the graphite on there, I'm going to take my tortillon and I am going to blend that out very gently. That goes pretty quickly. All right, we've made it all the way around. And I think what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to set the graphite along the edge so that we can add a little color. And all I'm doing is taking a little bit of clear water on my brush and adding that to the edge. Not a lot of water, just a little bit. And what that does is it sets the graphite so that it doesn't move around. And hopefully that will dry pretty quickly. All right. And now, while that's drying, I'm gonna clean my brush off there. I'm going to move on to my watercolor pencils. And if we take a look at our first set, I did actually go back and add a second layer of pencil just because I felt it wasn't dark enough. It looked a little washed out. And I am happier that I went back in and added more of the watercolor pencil once it was dry. So I added more, I added the water, and now I've let it dry again. And it just has a bit more color to it. So we're going to start with the terracotta color, and I'm using Derwent, and it's a terracotta 64. So I'm just adding that to the center like we did for our tiles 1 through 4, because I would like them to match. And if you want a more vibrant color quicker, you can actually wet the tips of these and color that in that way, and it's going to be a lot brighter, a lot darker. But I like to add the color in layers just because if you add too much too quickly and decide you don't like it, you're kind of stuck with it. Well, mostly stuck with it. As we're working our way around, I notice that these two are a bit lighter than our other triangles. So I'm going to stop for a moment and just add a little bit more graphite here to these two. I must have used a heavier hand when I was doing the other tiles. So we'll just kind of darken this a little bit so it matches a little better. All right, so we have our terracotta in the center. And then with tiles 1 through 4, we had a purple ring, but I'm gonna switch it up and make that ring, the circle, blue instead of purple. If you would rather it be purple or a different color, you go right ahead and fill that in with whatever color you would prefer. because we each have our own favorite colors and styles. I'm not adding a lot of color to these because I really do like the black and white with the shading on these. It just has a lot of interest in itself. But if there's other areas that you want to add color to, or if you want to add more than 3 colors, again, you can go back in and do that. All right, once we have that filled in, now I'm going to take our purple. So our blue was the Spectrum Blue 32, and our purple is Imperial Purple 23. So with the purple, I am going to fill in these, they're kind of like spokes. And again, feel free with adding water to the tips and coloring it in that way. I'm just taking my time and adding this dry before adding water with a brush. And we've made it all the way around. And then at this point, I'm going to go back in with the terracotta and go around the outer edge like we did on the first set. And if you don't have watercolor pencils, you can use whatever you have, Crayola colored pencils, Prismacolors, or you could just not add color at all. All right, once we have that kind of filled in, I'm going to take a brush, just a plain brush. And this is kind of an older brush. All it needs to do is add the water. So I'm going to add it to the outer edge first to let that dry while we're working on the rest of it. So I'm just very lightly adding a little bit of water. And we're back to where we started. And while that's drying, I'm going to go back in and start with the center here and then work my way out. So I'm not adding a lot of water, just enough to wet the color and kind of blend it together. All right, we've made it all the way around. I'm gonna clear my brush off before I go to the blue. And again, dip my brush in, get a little water, and then start with the blue. And the colors do become more vibrant once you add the water to it. All right, all the way around. Need my brush off again. And then we're going to start with the purple as my edges they feel pretty dry. You can tell they're dry if you don't see a shine to it, and also by touch. When it's wet, it feels cooler to the touch. And a little bit go off the edge here, so I'm just going to mop that up. When that happens, I just kind of clean off my brush, get some clear water, pat it dry, and then kind of mop up the extra there to clean it up. All right. And I believe this is our last one. Like that. And it looks pretty good. Once it dries, I'll decide whether to go back in and add another layer or not. For right now, the blue and the purple look pretty good, but I might go back in and add a little terracotta to the center so that it becomes more vibrant. that is basically it. If you would like to add more color, you could do that with more watercolor pencils, or I would probably suggest going in with something like a Gelly Roll Metallic. Um, and I may or may not do that later. I kind of like it as it is right now. And I'm going to leave it like this to give you options to experiment on your own if you would like to add color to different spots or not. If I do decide to do that, I will add photos to my blog and I will include that in my description. So I'm going to try to show you all of them together. So we have tiles 5 through 8. I'm going to push that to the side. And then I'm going to put the other set close to it. And let's see, which one was our first one? Do we remember? Let me turn this over and see. Okay, so our first one is actually this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we've got all of them together and they match, but they're a little different because we flipped the colors. And once you take the washi tape off the back, you can mix and match these around, and it's really cool, super cool. So play around with that. Add color if you'd like, or don't add color if you don't want to. I do think adding the Gelly Roll Metallic in a green, for example, would be really cool. So if anyone would like to try that, please let me know how that works out. Thank you for joining me. This has been an adventure and an experience and a journey, and I really enjoyed it. And again, a big thank you to Seven Forests, Five Rivers for a fragment of your imagination challenge this year. It's really been awesome. I'm so happy we're finished, and I hope you're happy with your finished product too. All right. Have a great day and take care. And remember, I love you guys. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, bye-bye.